Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where today I'm about to have a pretty epic drive in an Aston Martin race car, the Vantage AMR Pro, one of only 7 that's actually been road converted to be legal to drive on the public highway. Now the 4 cars behind me here are part of a private collection. The owner has kindly arranged today to be able to film with them the V600 Prototype at the end, the ultimate V12 Vantage, a car I've actually ridden in before, the V600 Roadster, each of those are one of 7 as well, and the brand new V12 Vantage here also, surrounded by a sea of lovely Aston Martins here at Aston Martin Cheltenham today. Now this is not your normal drive, hence the excitement, especially as somebody whose first sports car was this generation of Vantage, who owns the Vantage GT8, which was the ultimate final limited edition of the V8 powered version of the Vantage, and now this, which is the race car that they made to be the ultimate track toy, over 500 horsepower, this massive front splitter, a gigantic wing at the rear, stripped out race car parts all around it. We're going to have a full look around the AMR Pro, then get it started, and I'm led to believe it's going to be pretty loud, and then go for a drive on the public road in this, thanks to the owner. Let's do this. This is not your ordinary lineup of 4 Aston Martins, 4 incredibly special cars from Aston Martin in Gaydon, and this of course is something you don't normally drive on the road. But before we have a full look at the Vantage AMR Pro, a quick shout about the 2 V600s here. This is in fact the original V600 Coupe prototype that they made before the 7 customer cars, and I actually rode on board this up the hill climb at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. There were then the 7 coupes for customers, followed by 7 roadsters as well, this being one of those. But the idea behind this car was to take the V12 engine, like in the GT12 for example, mate it to the 7-speed dogleg manual gearbox, give it this bodywork that's reminiscent of the original V600, and put it together in a very bespoke package from Aston Martin's Q division. Then the most recent version of the Vantage is the new V12 Vantage, the latest generation Vantage of course, the significantly updated car, and in this case with the 5.2 litre twin turbocharged V12 as opposed to the 6 litre naturally aspirated unit found in the V600s, with the full carbon wing, one of the first to be delivered in this metallic grey with the lime green accents. But we're here right now for this. Let's have a look around the Vantage AMR Pro. The sun is popping out just in time for the drive, but let's talk about what exactly this car is, the Vantage AMR Pro. Now, as I mentioned, it is one of only 7 cars. It was the first model that Aston Martin introduced with this AMR Pro badge, effectively making the ultimate gentleman's track day racer exclusively for the racetrack. But this is the only one of the 7, I believe, that wears a number plate that's been converted to be road legal, and we'll talk more about what's gone into that as well. But it was the first AMR Pro model to launch. Since then we've seen the upgrades as well for the Vulcan. The 24 Vulcans could have the upgrade package for more downforce. Also the Valkyrie AMR Pro, the track-only version of the Valkyrie, of which there are 40 plus the 2 prototypes, and I've been lucky to experience one of those in Anger at Laguna Seca, and it was quite the recalibration of performance, we should say. But this is effectively where that began, and if you think about my own personal story and attachment to the Vantage, this is literally the ultimate version. The GT8 was the last production road car with 150 units, but this came a year later, only 7 of them, and it's a car that mixes elements of different Vantages, some elements of the GT8, some elements of the Vantage GT4 race car, like the engine, some of the bodywork, some panels like the bonnet and the wing straight from the Vantage GT8 race car, and in fact even the colour scheme of the cars in the sterling green with the lime accents actually comes from the race cars as well, including the number 97 in 2017, which was victorious in the GT8 Pro category at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And when that car actually returned to the Aston Martin HQ in Gaydon, Warwickshire, I was actually there that day with my GT8, completely coincidentally. We had the 2 cars side by side, which was beyond epic. But this is something you don't normally get to experience, so already a huge thanks to the owner. But let me talk a little bit more about it. So the engine, the 4.7 litre naturally aspirated V8, sits within 509 brake horsepower, so about 60 horsepower up on the GT8. Because of not needing to be restricted or meet the road regulations, it sits beneath the Vantage GT8 bonnet with the motorsport catches. There are 4 of these, full carbon piece, super light, but you do need 2 people to lift it off because there aren't any hinges or anything like that around it. We have this very big gaping front grille for all of the airflow through. We've got this super aggressive extended front splitter sitting very low and very wide with that accent stripe running around it. Most of the bodywork does come from the GT4, so these really wide wings, for example, and if we come round towards the side, even the cutaways that you have back here also for the air to be released out from behind the wheels, just to make the maximum effect of pulling out the airflow and obviously the aerodynamics. We've got the centre lock wheel specific to the car, which you can have with slicks or with wet tyres, or you can pop on some regular Sport Cup 2 road tyres if you want it to be driven on the road. A normal road legal regular tyre, same tyre in fact that I have on my GT8. A few carbon parts like the mirrors and the roof, for example, and then we come round towards the back and we need to talk about this, the picnic table. I don't think I've ever seen a wing as big as this on a car that you can drive on the road. Literally the GTE race car wing. Now, to make the road legal conversion by RML, they had to change a few things like the front headlights, they had to change some of the radiuses of some of the curves, and I mean a few other small things, but rarely not that complicated, I believe. I want to show you this quickly as well though, because again, we've got these motorsport latches back here. And the funny thing about this is that's all you need to open it up. So don't go putting your shopping in there and driving this down the street, or somebody can just walk up and open it. That easy anyway. Because it's based on the road car, you still have all of the usable space back here. You've got a parcel shelf. You obviously have the roll cage as well, sitting just in front of these carbon fibre struts that we have there also. But it's pretty regular to the Vantage, we could say. I believe it's a car that was kind of ready to go because they took that Vantage platform, the GT8, the exhaust. We'll get to the exhaust. We'll hear a lot of that in a moment, tucked in under there with those, again, massive exhaust tailpipes. But inside, you might be surprised, it's not completely stripped out. It's a gentleman's racer as opposed to a GT3 race car. And inside here, have a look at it. You have the blue Alcantara with all of the lime green accents, the Alcantara steering wheel and full dashboard, for example, but all of the creature comforts that you might like to find or like to have. But you don't have the automatic seats. They are fully manual bucket seats. I suppose that makes sense at the end of the day, but fairly sanitized in there. It seems fairly doable, fairly regular, shall we say, except for the fact that you look at the front again and you look through here and you're very aware that this is absolutely not something regular in the slightest. So I suppose it's time for me to take a seat on board, to start it up, take a listen, and then we're going to go out for a drive on the road in a Vantage AMR Pro. The AMR Pro does actually share the same key as the road cars, the ECU, the emotional control unit, this crystal glass key from the Aston Martins of the time, but this car is super new. So let me step in carefully and show you a little bit more around the inside before we get it started. Now you've got a different display actually here. You still have the full infotainment system available in here, like on the road cars, but instead of having the folding screen, you have this fixed motorsport style display up top. You've got the waterfall with all of these lime green accents, as you can see, including, check that out, the 24 Hours of Le Mans 2017 number 97 winner, and also a plaque here with Johnny Adams' name. The three drivers were Johnny Adam, Darren Turner and Daniel Serra as well that year. We've got full Alcantara, look around here, full carbon fibre door cards, the AMR embroidery on the headrests, but all quite familiar, I have to say, all quite familiar from my road car. Now we've got the sport shift gearbox, do need to discuss that while we're going, but for the moment, foot on the brake pedal, pop the key in here, and let's take a listen to this. Wow, that is even more aggressive than the GT8. That is genuinely more aggressive than the sound out of the GT8. It's rawer, it's rougher. I mean, it's a motorsport engine. It's literally the GT4 engine. I don't quite know what's about to happen, but I know that it's going to be fun. So, let me grab some cameras, let's gear up, and then let's go out for a drive in the Vantage AMR Pro. That was the startup sound of the V12 Vantage, now that I'm in the car, because we're going to be doing a little bit of a convoy of this. Close the swan doors, we've got the fly-off handbrake just like in the road car. Other than that, drive, we've got a sport mode. I might pop it straight into sport. So drive is auto on the gearbox. Realistically, if you pull the paddle, you're then in manual. So, nearly new car, very, very raw, it just feels already like it wants to be angry, like it's aggressive, like it's ready to shout. And obviously, because it's a race car, you want to avoid getting caught in traffic jams. This thing needs some airflow through it, so eyes on the temperature gauge as we start to get it warmed up as well. 15 miles per hour has never sounded so good. We've got the normal indicators. Obviously, this is a gearbox that's much more about the shifting at the top end of the rev range. Whoa! This is bonkers. I have to say, that thing in front looks pretty good as well. The idea with the automated manual box is just to fluctuate the throttle pedal a touch as you're shifting, just smoothens it out ever so slightly. But hey, it's actually fairly civilized for a race car. The inside of this, these should all have been road legal. I mean, we've only driven 100 meters, so a little bit more time needed for some thoughts, but back into gear. Familiar feel of everything. Obviously, this is an engine that wants to be revved up and rewards you when you do. That's 4,000 RPM. Let's get out of town onto some more open roads, and that is where the fun is truly going to begin. I'm not even going 40 miles per hour, and it's this thunderous. Aggressive is really the word for this. It is super aggressive. Down to second gear. Yeah, it's much happier up in the power band. So over 500 horsepower in a Vantage of this generation. That on its own is something really cool, because they originally started at about 380 horsepower with the 4.3. It went up to 400 with the 4.7. A few different iterations came along. So there were N400, N420, N430, etc., until the GT8 up to 446 metric horsepower. We're obviously a fair whack above that with this. As we're just cruising along though, in terms of general creature comforts, we've got air conditioning, we've got the navigation. In fact, we have the different displays out of this system. So you can put it into, let me bring this up, the power meter, which gives you the charts of your throttle, brake, horsepower, for example, torque. It's going to drop down a gear. Third gear. I need a national speed limit road because we need to enjoy a little bit more of this when the road allows us to. I'm just sitting in here, like, it feels so normal yet so different. It's so normal but so unbelievably raw, so kind of intoxicating. You thought the GT8 was wild. This is like that, and even more, and even more insanity bundled into something on four wheels. Obviously in my head is, how does this stack up against the two Vantages that I own, the GT8 being the closest sibling, albeit mine with a manual. You could have had this gearbox in the GT8 should you wish, but the vast majority of them are with the 6-speed manual instead. And in comparison, it's even more raucous, but it's also, I would say, a touch more responsive. The engine feels a little bit more lively, and I'm just accelerating in gear a little bit, you know, nothing crazy going on at the moment, but feeling a little bit of that difference. Perhaps the biggest surprise is how civilized it actually is in here, how it is fairly normal in so many ways in terms of the interior that I know from the different generations of Vantage. A slightly more updated look to the waterfall, but fundamentally that's ludicrous. Even just a slow acceleration is that loud. I'd say fundamentally it's the same civilized, as I said, interior that I know very, very well. The gearbox is significantly updated in comparison to my earlier Vantage. It's much, much sharper as we get higher in the revs. That snap is just to die for. That snap-on lift-off, I'm not sure how much of that transpires. I mean, it's rough and bumpy, as you can tell, but it's not the least compliant thing that I've ever driven. There are road cars that are rougher than this. Take the Hurricane STO and put it into Trofeo mode, and it's way less pleasant than this is. This actually rides fairly well in comparison. The downshift noise is really cool. It's very, very, well, different to either of my Vantages. Just slightly higher in the rev range. The way it blips that, you can tell it's like a computer controlling the clutch in the background, an automated manual. But you need to obviously drop it down fairly early to gears. It doesn't want to be sitting low in the RPMs. What I love about this is that you do not need to be going fast to make a whole lot of noise and have a gigantic smile on your face. And you know, let's be real, this is a very, very expensive Vantage when you can pick up a 4.3 for about 30 to 40,000 pounds, or perhaps even under 30,000 pounds for one that's a little bit ropey, shall we say. I don't even know what that is as a percentage, but it's a very, very small amount. It's about 3% of the price of this, if not 2% of the price of this. When you think about it like that, this is a very expensive Vantage, but what you're getting is one of only 7 part of an exclusive club. These were all sold, of course, before it was revealed or driven to Aston's, let's say, VIP customer base. And the reason that there are often 7 of these cars, like the V600 and like this, is because that's through the Q commission process. All makes sense. Sometimes they are one-offs, like the Victor. You might remember the Victor, which is in many ways a manual 177 with a old school Vantage, the squared body shape style body over the top of it. And this is just even sitting in traffic like we are now. Listen to that, second gear right now. I tell you what, it's noticeably more potent than my car. Massively quicker. Thanks, of course, to an extra 15% power, but also a reduction of weight. Heading around this roundabout following the V12 Vantage. That's one to experience as well. Come back out this way. You really do get that like secondary kick of power from it when you really go for it. It's like when you're trying to drive the car gently, it just does things in a very docile way. It's when you then give it a punch, it says, yep, I'm ready for that. Sorry to the little scooter that I just went past and probably deafened in the process. And then the fun of dropping down through the gears. Down to 4th, down to 3rd, down to 2nd. I think we're going to be taking 1st. Gosh, and like my GT8, I know that if I open the windows, it will make no difference to anything. The car is just full loud, full attack, full everything. So I think my conclusion at this stage is that it's hard to believe that this isn't a road car. It just feels like a very, very, very loud and aggressive road car. Especially with those downshifts. This is bonkers. I cannot believe the noise that it makes. Last of the old school. Absolutely last of the old school. And you're supposed to drive this thing around a racetrack, not on the road. So out of sport, it's a touch more sluggish on the throttle response, but otherwise feels really pretty similar. Back into sport, you can hear actually it changes the exhaust sound. In sport, it's slightly less valve controlled. I didn't think there would be a valve on there, but I'm pretty sure there is from the sounds that I'm hearing. Those downshifts, you could do that all day long. Temperatures sitting happily, comfortably in the middle. What a thing. What a silly, silly thing, but what a cool car to be part of this epic collection, which of course features some really, really spectacular Aston Martins, but plenty of other things beyond that, which we might be able to see down the line as well. Certainly for now, today, just enjoying this to the absolute max, appreciating what an opportunity this is. It's the only road legal one of these, the only one. It's a £1 million race car that I'm driving on the road in the English countryside, as you do. We're returning to base, and I just can't believe how actually normal it feels. It shouldn't be like this. There shouldn't be something that you just hop in and, let's say, just drive. That's the slightly crazy thing for me, because if you get into a Vantage GT4 car, it's completely stripped out, you know, cage, no nice materials, no passenger seat. Well, you can put in a passenger seat, but none of the things that you have inside here. Obviously, you have the kill switches and all that stuff, but this is quite normal. You've got a few different settings for traction and that stuff, just looking around and pressing buttons. Obviously, while we've been driving, I've left all of that fully engaged rather than trying to go crazy. But we're pulling back into Aston Martin Cheltenham. I'm a bit blind to the curves, but we'll go around. Just can't quite believe I've driven this. Slow speed is where you remember again that it's a race car. What on earth? What on earth have I just driven? This is absurd. Wow. Let's pull this up. We've got two V600s in front of me there. Makes no sense. Pull this in and work out where to stop with it. Parked back up, and obviously this car is made to be driven and going up through the revs, and I was thinking a little bit more about that double blip you almost get on the downshift. Of course, it's expecting you to downshift really high into the rev range, so when you're driving it at slower speeds, that's where it actually makes quite a cool sound, but not what it was primarily developed or built to do. It wants to be revved. It doesn't like idling at the low end of the rev range. This is a thing that was built to be going flat out round Silverstone or Spa or something like that. Now, I'm going to challenge myself with these latches and see if I can actually open this up and reveal the engine to you, because I think I can do it. I'm probably not going to be able to put it back on again, but I think I can very carefully remove the bonnet and show you underneath, because it is very, very light. This whole panel, up we go, there we go. And I can just hold this above my head and check out that. Look at it, with the carbon fibre over the top of the Vantage GT4 engine in there, and also the plaque, the Aston Martin AMR, hand built in England by Dr. Andy Palmer, who was of course the CEO at the time. I also have the plaque with his signature on it from the final inspection of my GT8. Now, I'm standing here slightly awkwardly with this. Give me a second, and I'll try and pop it back into place. I'm going to pretend that I did that all by myself. Unfortunately, it wasn't that easy, but regardless, close up all of the latches. It's back into place. Not particularly heavy, considering the size of that panel, 1.5 meters or so in each direction. But driving this is just about the experience, isn't it? If you want to go out in a car and never see another one on the road, right there, one of one when it comes to road-driven Vantage AMR Pro. And what a phenomenal collection. You know, to be here with the two V600s, to have driven following the V12 Vantage as well, I can't say thank you enough to the owner of this collection, and hopefully we'll be able to see some more special treats as well down the line. But today, to drive this, even if it's not the most full-on of drives, you know, this is a car that needs to be revved, but to drive it and to be able to appreciate a little bit of its story, what it is, why it exists, the Aston Martin success in motorsport at Le Mans at 24 hours, even in 2016, the World Endurance Championship title winner, the Vantage GT8. Obviously at the time this will have been being thought about and being spawned, presented in the same colours as actually the GT8 was originally launched, and even the same colours as the race winner as well at Le Mans. But to drive it on the road, it makes no sense, but yet it makes perfect sense. What an awesome day. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you again to everybody involved for making this possible. What a day this has been. That's it for now though. Thanks again guys, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers.